Hi, welcome to the Charges Talk Show. I'm your host Nirbande. So today we're going to be going over Rising Tide, chapter 4 to chapter 7. So we see like this awkward situation where our sister, as we've talked before, Charlie protests about the climate change and relates climate change to the fish die-off, but no one really believes in. The person who opposes it most is our principal Strickler, and now we see at the end of chapter 3 that Principal Strickler calls our main character's mother, and in this chapter we see like Principal Strickler saying that our sister Charlie has been suspended for indefinite time, up until further notice. So that's probably, you know Principal Strickler, that's kind of get back to our sister because of all the protest she has done, or the way she has humiliated the principal in front of in front of the mayor, in front of the people while protesting. So that was a bummer for Charlie. Now, we, again, as I've said, Charlie is the driving force of this story. Like, she's probably the one who is gonna make, he's more active about climate. And at some point, we get our main character saying that sometimes when she thinks like people are not enough, woke about this situation, or are enough woke when it comes to climate change. Our main character, thinks that she isn't even the one up until Charlie changed her mind. She didn't even know much about that. So, that being said, as I said before, and I repeat again, though Charlie is the main driving force in terms of climate change and everything, but our main character has a responsibility to give Charlie's movement a direction. Because without a direction, it's not going to be successful. So again, we get to decide like what kind of suggestion, what kind of advice we want to give our sister, a diplomatic, or what kind of. So that's sort of something you see in this chapter. And then, as to what we see further, is that we help with Charlie to, in those diamond scenes where we get to clean the city, and we get a bonus scene if we clean the whole city with all those diamond scenes. We fight against the air pollution with the superintendent. We do cleaning, and we sort of convince them that using car, they're creating pollution. They can just walk the distance without having to use the car. It would be really good exercise and everything. So that's what happened. Now, in the next chapter, we see that Charlie is trying to reach to more people. We see like her initiative, and sort of what we think that through internet and everything. So she's protesting, and also she's reaching to people, different kind of people. We see this different people, and Charlie sort of telling them about like a lot of people who were against Charlie's ideas. They were opposing Charlie's ideas formerly. They're now with Charlie, like, because Charlie's telling them like how their businesses are collapsing, and how they can develop, and how they can sort of help their businesses with this go green idea, or how this idea is not at all a monstrous idea, or not a bullshit, but it's gonna help those businesses. So those sort of stuff. And again, so that's all she's doing. But it says that she gets some pushback from an unexpected source. So if you guys remember, I told in my previous video that Warner, the CEO of Monteverde, he's gonna be the antagonist character, and he is. That's what it seems like, because he opposes Charlie's idea of going green. He says like business is gonna collapse and all those stuff. So basically, he opposes Charlie. Now, what we see, that Charlie again begins to campaign, but again, like Robin helps our main character and Charlie. He writes an article against the Monteverde company and its CEO Warner, that they're hiding behind business, their talking point or demagoguery, and they're basically ignoring the climate change. Now we see that Monteverde is suing basically Robin. Monteverde is suing Robin for that article, and we see like a Cassidy versus Robin, or Cassidy versus even our main character in Charlie's main this action, because Cassidy is a lawyer for them, for Monteverde. So that's the awkward situation that we see being created there. So now it's been created there, and beside that, what's been there and what's been created there in that chapter is that we have to make difficult decisions, because we basically see like, in response to our article about them, they have also published an article, and in that article they have basically reported, and they have described Charlie, our main character's sister, as a radical woman, as a radical student, a radical girl, and her ideas and her process as radicalized movements. And so basically, so these sort of like radical or extremist movements, like it's gonna sort of affect your businesses and stuff like that. People are not really comfortable with that, and people don't want young girls to be radicalized or to be a radical or extremist. So people are afraid of Charlie. And also our main character, she also get described by them by something bad, like she's probably guiding her sister in the bad direction. And we know who can support that, Principal Strickler, though we don't get his mention too much. But we see like, sort of, we walk into the Monteverde office and we have this conversation with Monteverde CEO Warner. Just a very heated conversation, and Warner makes it clear, like Warner, through his expression and how he replies to our main character's accusations, he is a pretty calm guy, and he can murder a guy and he can still keep his calmness. So he is just a pure politician, and he's the businessman, and whatever he's doing, and he's the main antagonist character, but he is playing everything by politics with his power. Now, what we see so far, there's another thing to mention. So Cassidy is a lawyer for Monteverde. We see this emotional moment, like why Cassidy, like when Cassidy is justifying like why she's for the wrong people, because at one point Monteverde helped her sister, probably gave her sister a life. Now Eddie, our main character's best friend, we see like at various points we are having a fallout. We're having a fallout, So we're having a falling out between us and Eddie. So that's a pretty like having falling out. So that's really not expected, because main character feels really bad about having a falling out with her best friend. But Eddie wants to defend Warner. Eddie wants to defend the company because he works for that, and he is insecure that if he becomes a part of our main character and main character's sister Charlie's protest, he would lose his job, and probably he thinks that he can't make much changes to that company, but if he tries to say anything he would be sacked. So he's afraid of this. Now there is this some bitterness in our relationship because of that. So Eddie's relationship. So as to what to come, I believe Eddie would finally see the light at some point, because chapter 7, sink or swim, you make a difficult decision and suffer the consequences. Now also we get to, in various ways, we get to clean the city, with that Diago little kid. We clear the streets, and with Diago and Mel, I guess, we make a, sort of garden and stuff like that. We transfer a really, polluted place, a garbage place, sort of a car repairing place that was totally a disaster. That place, that was a mess. We organized that place and we transformed it into a garden in chapter 6, if I am not being wrong. So again, but what happened at the end of chapter 7, that's pretty interesting. What happened is that our main character is at their house, and suddenly she sees like the doors open. She goes there, and there is a fish in the front row, and it's pierced with a knife. There's blood in the window. So basically, blood on the window. There's a fish on the front seat of the car, and it's pierced with knife and blood everywhere. So she probably knows that it's a warning. She can understand from who it's a warning. Now again, it could be, as main character thinks, that it could be from Monteverde company, it could be from anybody, because remember, when we and our sister were described as radicalized people, as radical ones, as our movement was described as radical movement, a lot of people, mostly everybody almost, were against us. Everybody was against us. Every single person was against us. All of those people were against us. So it could be anyone. It could be Principal Strickler. But now, that's what our main character thinks. But I personally think that it's none of those, town people, but it's definitely Monteverde. Because we see that Robin and our main character having this moment and conversation, and Robin says to our main character that why, sort of this Monteverde and its CEO, they're stopping our main character and our sister from digging in or from taking this initiative, because Robin thinks that this Monteverde company, they have something to do with this fish die-off. Probably they did something, some experiment or something that was non-ecological or something really bad. They did some experiment with chemical or something that created this die-off. And now they don't want our main character and Charlie, who are, environmentalists, or who are going to dig deeper and finding something out, or Robin. So that's why they're suing them and practically doing everything to stop them illegally. And now they're threatening them. And they're seeing that, sort of when you can't just get it done with the straight finger, you gotta crook it. So now they're crooking their finger. That's what they're doing. They basically stole their rights, said them no. They're basically, where they're protesting, they basically sort of bought that place, or occupied that place, and sort of kicked them out of those protesting place. They sort of through media and etc., they sort of created a negative publicity of our main character and our main character's sister Charlie. But finally we see, like, that's a final thing, a threat. So they're threatening us with a fish. It's pierced with knife and blood and everything. And as to who is behind that, I think it's definitely the CEO, Warner, of Monteverde. Now, as to like what's gonna happen, I think that we're gonna go deeper into that. Cassidy, she's gonna help us, though she's a lawyer for Monteverde and Warner, but she's going to help us, or they're going to help us. That is gender customizable, I always forget. And also Robin, and also I think Eddie. This is the time when Eddie, if we tell him, if he understands, I mean, he's gonna deny probably at first that this is Monteverde or Warner's deed. But I think when finally we sort of expose Monteverde or Warner, who did this, who threatened us by putting that dead bloody fish pierced with a knife in our seat, in our car seat at night. They put that with all those blood stains, to threaten us. So finally, I think Eddie would come around. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen, I guess. So we'll see. So today, this Rising Tide chapter 8 is going to release. Keep an eye on for it, and I'll be sure to read it and explain what's going to happen in this chapter. Thank you guys for sticking around and listening to me, and stick around for more. Thank you.